I almost said good morning. Hi, I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And as promised, tonight I'm bringing you another product-based class, and this time I am using the Stippled Roses set, and I'm going to do what I did a few weeks ago and what I do every once in a while, where I talk about the beginner card, the casual card, and the avid card. And when I worked on the avid card, I might have gotten a little carried away. So it will be a card that you might make once or twice in a lifetime. Well, and you may be different than I am, but I certainly would not use it for a card swap or if I needed to make multiples, because my arm is tired from cranking the machine, and my hands are tired from coloring and whatnot. So anyway, I will put the camera down so we can get started and you can see what I've been working on. All right, here we go with the adjustments again. So hang on just a second. I try to avoid having you see too much of the outskirts of my desk, because the outskirts of my desk looks like the remnants of a tornado. No, wrong way. There we go. Okay, and then I just have to move everything up a little bit. Okay, looks good. So this is my host code for the month of July, which seems like it's just going so fast. And if you make a purchase in the month of July, be sure to please use my host code, unless you're planning on placing a large order over $150 before tax and shipping. Then don't use the host code, because you will get the rewards. And as I always say, please just reach out if you have any questions about how that works, because we don't want you to miss out on those. So that's another important thing, was we had the free shipping day. I don't think I printed that out, but I posted it. We had the free shipping day yesterday, and my order went through without any problems at all. So I don't know exactly what was going on, but this morning a lot of the demonstrators were saying, oh my gosh, I got cut off in the middle of my order. I lost things out of my cart and they wouldn't come back. And it sounded like some people had a very difficult problem, and it was enough people that it wasn't just user error on the part of one or two people. So Stampin' Up! Actually extended the free shipping day through today as well. So that would generally be, it's like through 11 p.m. or something like that, or 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. So they are 2 hours behind us or ahead of us? Hang on. Hey, Google, what time is it in Salt Lake City, Utah?
The time in Salt Lake City, Utah is 5:03 p.m.
Okay, so they're 2 hours behind us. So that gives you an idea of when you would have to place your order by. So free shipping is like a big deal for me, because even if I don't have any new stamp sets that I want to buy because I'm waiting for the new mini catalog to come out, I always have paper and ink and re-inkers and things like that I want to buy, glue, all of those things, and those things add up, and they're heavy, so it tends to make the shipping more based on not so much the weight but on the quantity that you spend. So free shipping day is kind of a biggie. And we're also having bonus days. And the fact that they did a free shipping day during bonus days, it's kind of a bonus, because that doesn't happen too often. So through July 3rd through the 31st, for every $50 that you spend, you'll earn a $5 coupon. This is in US dollars. And you can get as many as you want. I mean, if you spent $500, you'd get $5 for every $50 that you spent. If you spent $100, you'd get $10. And those coupons are redeemable in the month of August. All right, so I wanted to make sure you knew about that. I think I've already showed you this, but just in case you weren't watching those other times, hang on, I always get nervous when I don't see myself, but sometimes I'm not right there where I think I'm supposed to be. Okay, so the online exclusives, there are some Halloween sets, and there are some Christmas sets. All right, so those are really worth looking at. Anytime you can look at the online exclusives, it's a good thing to do. We've got 2 new kits that just came out too, and the kits are wonderful. And the kits are great for beginners. They're great to give as gifts to young people, because you don't have to have any experience at all. And some of them are actually geared towards children putting them together, either by themselves or with a little help from an adult. So we've got those, but then don't forget that we have the new mini coming out in September. So this is my daily creative prompts calendar. Again, take a look at that, because there are some special offers there. And this is the Stippled Roses stamp set. So this is not a suite, it's just a bundle. And it comes with, it's in the annual catalog, so it comes with this stamp set, which is really, really pretty. And what's nice about this stamp set is that if you don't want to color it, you absolutely don't have to color it. So let me just bring it up a little bit higher so you can see. So you see the little dots in the shading? They're ideal for coloring if you choose to, but if you don't want to, you just stamp it with the color ink that you want to stamp it with, or even ink up your stamp with the daubers to get a couple of different colors or different shades of the same color. So no coloring required. And then it comes with these dies. So the dies will cut out the leafy image, the big double rose image, and a small rose that you see represented in the stamps. But it will also cut out this greenery, 3 of these little flowers, 3 of these, I think these are flowers as well. Then it'll cut out this, this piece of greenery. It looks like a branch off of a tree or something. And it will cut this off, which looks like some type of a plant with flowers and leaves on it. So very often the dies will cut out things that there are no stamps for, and that's kind of a bonus, because cutting out, let's say, a bunch of these leaves in various shades of green gives you a wonderful collection of things that you can tuck in behind, say, a sentiment strip or whatever, so they're great for that. Okay, so we're going to start with the beginner. So the beginner, if you recall, I've said this before, we call sometimes a SIP card, and SIP stands for Stamp, Inks, and Paper. Hang on, okay, there we go. So I looked through my cardstock because I reordered some cardstock yesterday that I hadn't had in a while, or that I was out of or almost out of, excuse me. And what I discovered in looking through it is that I have some colors that I just underuse. And it really isn't because I don't like them, because if I really hate them, then I maybe order a variety pack or something so that I have a few colors of it in case I need it, but I may not order a whole pack. But I tend to order a whole pack of most everything, because even the things I think I don't like to begin with, they end up really growing on me over time. So Fresh Freesia was one of those colors that I decided was underused. I used it when it first came out, and then it's like I kind of forgot about it and moved on to other colors. So here's what makes this a SIP card. What makes it a SIP card, first of all, is that there's nothing but inks and stamp being used, okay, and obviously paper. That's it. There's nothing fancy about it. I will confess that while I wanted to use a circle punch for this, the largest circle punch that we have is, I believe, the 2 3/8 inch, and it wasn't big enough for me to get as much of that image in it as I wanted to. And I often say that beginner crafters don't buy the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and don't buy the dies right away. They kind of want to work into it. So I apologize for using something a little bit more into the casual to avid stamper. But everything else, I didn't use any special punches for this. I just stamped the best birthday wishes and then just cut it with my scissors. And I stamped a background using the leaf stamp, which is right over here, and then stamped this image of the rose in the center using this stamp, which you can see is quite a bit larger. If I had used the 2 3/8 inch, I either would have had to cut off most of that smaller rose completely, or cut off part of both of them, and I just didn't want to do that. So that's why I cheated and used the die. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the cat hair off my desk. Jeez. Which is interesting because they're really not allowed in here, but Louis keeps finding his way in here every time I open the door. So we're going to do this, and I think that this is really just a beautiful card and very simple. I'm trying to adjust my lighting so there's not so much glare, but there's still light. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make that just so you can kind of see how I did it. Not that you probably couldn't figure it out on your own, but let's just do it and see what we come up with. So I've got my Fresh Freesia card base, which is, in this case, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. All right, and I've got my Fresh Freesia ink. I think I need to burnish that down a little bit. Let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to need some scrap paper, because to make the background, we're going to do some stamping off the edge. I sort of found that my Fresh Freesia ink pad probably needed re-inking, but I chose not to re-ink it because then the background wouldn't be as subtle as I wanted it to be. When you use a really juicy ink pad, sometimes you don't get the effect that you want. So because we're going to put that circle in the middle, when I stamp this, I'm going to be okay with that piece of stem ending up in the middle because we're going to cover it up anyway. So the middle may not look pretty. So you can see that is very faint, and it's because this does need re-inking. But I'll wait until after I'm done here tonight to do that and hope for the best. All right, and then maybe I'll come down to this corner and do the same thing. And then from here, what I want to do is ink up just maybe half of the stamp, just parts of it, and just kind of go around. I'm not going to do any stamping off, though. I want the full image, mainly because there's not that much ink anyway. So I'm going to kind of keep going around like this, and then maybe I want it to be kind of random. I don't want it to look too planned out. So maybe over here I'll throw another stem section in, but not the whole thing. And then maybe I'll do the same thing here. Okay. So that's just not pretty, but that's okay because we're going to cover that up. And then maybe a little bit here in that corner. I kind of want most of it covered in one way or another. And maybe this one I'll go a little sideways to take up a little more space. And then maybe one more here. And it doesn't matter to me if it overlaps. If you don't like that look, then if you do this or something similar, then obviously just don't overlap. So that gives us a really nice background for our card, and it's really attractive. Well, it will be once we cover it up. Anyway, okay, so we've got that. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to stamp part of that image again on there. So I don't know why I closed this and put it away, but I did. And since I don't know exactly how far I'm going to go, I am going to stamp up the whole thing. And since it's a larger stamp, I'm going to bring my stamp pad to the stamp. It's also a good way of letting the ink kind of flow down and making sure that it gets inked up pretty well. And I'm also going to stand up when I do this for two reasons. One reason is that because I know it's dry, I'm going to want to press on it a little bit, and I'm going to want to really look and see where I'm getting what I want, if that makes any sense. So I want a good portion of both flowers. So I'm not really pressing hard, but I'm just holding it down, letting that ink soak into the paper. And that came out really good, really nice. Okay. So now that can go on there, and I've already forgotten what my sample looked like. Okay, my sample's so plain I don't know why I even worried about it. I also have the liner. Let's just make sure that I cut that the right size. Yep, the liner. And for the liner, I'm going to use the smaller rose. And I only put one on the other card, but you could put more. I might put more this time. I really think I like just one. I think there's something kind of pretty about a single rose. And we know that roses come in all colors. There are even black roses, so pretty much any color I came up with, there really could be a rose that color. One of my favorite roses when I used to grow roses was the Lucille Ball rose, which was a Jackson and Perkins rose. And for those of you who don't know, Jackson and Perkins Company used to be located right here in Newark for many years. And that was one of their roses, and of course it was kind of an orangey red color, just like Lucille Ball's hair. Although that apparently wasn't her real color either. But and then there was a Mr. Lincoln rose, which was a very dark red. And there was another one, because I planted 3 bushes in this one spot. It turned out to not be a good spot for roses because the water from the pool got splashed on them and it had chlorine in it, and so that wasn't such a good thing. Okay, so as you can see now, this is going to cover up kind of that hot mess there with the stems. And I'm not going to pop this up, but I will pop the sentiment up. I'm truly hoping that this is not as dark. I watched a video the other day that I was watching it live and I almost wanted to say, you know, it's so dark I can hardly see it. But sometimes I know my computer screen looks dark unless I move it a certain way. So I'm hoping that that's not too dark. All right, and then I just took a strip. I have this whole jar of strips from when I trim things, and sometimes they're wider than this and sometimes they're only this wide, and it tends to work because sometimes we have some very narrow sentiments. So in this case we have this best birthday wishes that's pretty narrow. Now I probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but the nice thing about using a narrow strip is that you tend to get it straight. But I also can tell that I mounted my label on here not necessarily straight, so I don't want to straighten out the label. I want to straighten out the edges of the red rubber. I'm hoping that will work. Let's put it that way. If not, we'll just do a little more trimming. Over, trying to get my head right over it. And I can tell already that it's crooked. It is. Okay, so we'll turn it over the other side. And I rocked it a little bit, and so I got some of the stuff from the edges, the ink that was on the edges, even though I had done stamp surgery on this one. Alright, let's see. Let's go for better. Better. Still not perfect, but better. And we really don't aim for perfect, because that's just not too realistic in the crafting world. Hello Amy, how are you? You've been posting some great family pictures this week. Okay, so those are probably not worth keeping, but I'll hang on to them for now. That's still a little bit low on there. All right, now just so you know, when you're not happy with the way something comes out and you keep trying to fix it and keep trying to fix it, sometimes you make matters worse. And I'm aware of that. But it's not going to stop me from doing it. Okay, so for the sentiment, I think I'll pop it up because I'm pretty sure that even a beginner would have some dimensionals or something similar. And if not, then they can just glue it down. Some people really don't like the look of the things popped up with the dimensionals. It's totally personal taste. Whatever you like is up to you. Okay, so this is, you know, what we call tone on tone, or another word for it is monochromatic, meaning just one color, and I've always kind of liked that. That's a little crooked too. These get very sticky if you push them down. If you don't push them down hard, then you have a little time to rearrange. So there you go. I think they're both pretty much the same. They're both very nice. And I like those colors, and I'm glad I pulled out the fresh freesia to use. All right, so that's card number 1, and that is a beginner card. Theoretically, a beginner card. Now keep in mind too, when I say that something's a beginner card, that's not, you know, like a rule. It's not set in stone. Everybody does different things, and some beginners catch on really quickly, and some people who've been stamping for years don't want to do anything but simple cards. So it's also kind of an individual thing. So this is the casual stamper. This is someone who maybe doesn't have it all, but they have some of the stuff, and maybe they're starting to get into die cuts, maybe not, maybe because some people really just prefer punches. So I've got a smoky slate card base, same size as the other one. And then I did something that I know you've seen me do before if you watch, is I've taken 2 sheets of DSP. One is from the Country Woods and one is from the Country Lace DSP. And they're part of a mega suite. So if you buy one bundle, no, I lied. Bundles don't come with, nope, just ignore me. But yes, they are part of the mega suite, and I forget what that actual suite is called. But it's the one with the stool and the plants and the one with the birdhouse, and it's in the annual catalog. So what I do is I take them, before I cut them, I take them one on top of the other, so not like this. So I'll have this whole one on top of this whole one, and then I cut them to the size I want them to be, which in this case is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I make sure that they're completely lined up, and I put them in my cutter and I cut them at an angle. So instead of going corner to corner, I come in a little bit, so it's like about 1 inch in on this side and about 1 inch in on that side. And then what happens is you get 2 that will fit together to create one. If you tried to keep the pattern the same, you couldn't do it with one piece of paper. See what I mean? And then I thought that Misty Moonlight would look good with smoky slate. So I was wrong about what I just said. This one is this one is 4 by 5 1/4. This one is 3 3/4 by 5. And I forgot to cut the papers down before I did that. So I taped this one together on the back so that it wouldn't fall apart, and then I put it on the cutter and cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, and then I have a small piece of gray. Actually, I think it's 3 3/4 by 1.5 inches, and another piece that I'm going to have to cut down, I think, but I'm not sure yet. And then I stamped the roses in the Misty Moonlight. So I started putting, I didn't want to do the whole card, but I wanted you to see the process. So, but I figured you'd see me stamp it once, so you didn't need to see me stamp it again. And I just think that these 2 colors go really, really well together. And it's a little bit, it's more muted. I don't know if some people would say this was a masculine card, or could be, because some people just feel that flowers don't have anything to do with men. And I'm not sure that that's really true. I know lots of men who are avid gardeners. So I don't know if it's true that flowers are just for girls or just for women. So we're going to put that one on there, and that's all we're doing. We're not doing anything special with that. And then we're going to put this one on top of that. I'll just make sure that I did cut that to the right size, and it looks like I did. Try to not put any glue where that seam is, because I don't want it oozing through the top. That would be bad. And I don't really think I care which one is where. Flip it over and do it the other way around, but I'm not really sure that it matters. Okay, and then I'd thought about using ribbon, but then I remembered that the smoky slate ribbon that I had was retired. So I said, okay, I guess that's not going to happen. So I just decided to sort of make my own ribbon. I started out with a thicker piece of paper and then decided to narrow it down and make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to put this at a bit of an angle over that. So it's pretty subtle. I could possibly stamp something on that, but I kind of just want to leave it be. I've got my glue in my little glue holder over here, so I keep putting it back because I want to make sure that it doesn't clog. I put the glue on the wrong side. It doesn't matter, except that I wrote the word blank. Just to remind me of what I was doing, that I wasn't stamping on this, because I am going to stamp on the other one. So I didn't put it quite at the halfway point. It's a little bit more low down. That's not a problem. I wrote pretty lightly with pencil, and this wonderful helix, and one of them is made by another company too. It's a well, they're calling it a professional eraser, but it's called a polymer eraser, I believe. Anyway, it does a really good job erasing pencil, as long as you have it like pressed really hard and written super dark or whatever. And we're covering most of it up anyway, so I think we'll be fine. So that's going to go there. And I think I do want to pop that up. So we'll get some dimensionals out. I might be getting a little carried away with the dimensionals, but I want to make sure that it's everything's covered. And now I'm looking for my take your pick tool, because with that many dimensionals it would be nice to have it. Oh, there it is, there it is. Okay, so I do like to use my take your pick tool to get the backings off, because I can get off more than one at a time. Usually I can get 3 or 4 piled up on here, and then I may have to take them off and start again. And I think that's all. This one's stuck in the middle there. Okay. I do feel like this definitely has a right side up, and that's it. I don't mind putting it on a slant, but I didn't want to put it like totally upside down. So we'll put that there. And then what I had in mind for this, I'll need another piece of scrap paper, is just to take the leafy image, and I don't think I got smoky slate ink out. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Well, that's weird, because I thought I did. Hang on one second, I'm not seeing it where it's supposed to be, though. Oh. I also used it for the next card, so I had it in the basket with the next card. So just for a little interest on the inside, I'm just going to kind of go along here. I think this one needs some inking too. Leave out all the ones that need re-inking and put them in a basket until I get to it, because otherwise I just forget until it's too late and I'm in the middle of using it. Okay, I thought that would make just a nice little something for the inside. And it is a little too long, but it's easier for me anyway to trim it after I glue it on, and just to turn it upside down, and that way I'm sure that I'm getting it the length that I want. Whoops, well, that didn't work. My theory was that I was going to pick it up and just kind of do this with it to make sure it was all the way down to the bottom. There we go. And there's just the tiniest bit, but you really don't want to see that hanging over. So we'll trim that off. I don't see a need to line this. I know some people feel very strongly about lining all their cards with a white liner, but if I write with a dark black pen, I think that'll be just fine, so I'm okay with not lining it, but again, you do what works for you. And I did not come up with a sentiment for this one. I think this was one of those cards, now that I'm thinking about it, that I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted the sentiment on the front. I kind of wanted this to just be by itself, so I'm going to put a sentiment on the inside. And I could even emboss a sentiment in black on the inside. That might be kind of cool. Okay, so that is card number 2, and that's our casual card. And I think that one's pretty too. It's a real toss-up, which one I like better. The next one is the card for the avid card maker, and that was where I kind of got myself into trouble. I shouldn't really say that I got myself into trouble. It just ended up being a little bit more work than I had originally planned. All right, so I did use the largest circle from the Everyday Detail dies, And I think that's my sentiment strip. But who remembers, you know, when you do these things in advance, which is what I try to do, sometimes you forget where you were going with something. So I kind of cheated on this one too, and I apologize. I just had this rude awakening of something that I didn't even realize. So I've got a white card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And my main color for this card is Moody Mauve, another underused color. And I accidentally ordered 2 packages of it once, the paper, so I really need to use this. So I really wanted to do something different with the background here, and I love doing a stenciled background. And please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have any current stencils like this, or masks. We have, if you remember, the sunflower one that was so beautiful, where you could build a sunflower. There's a new one now that does the same thing, but with trees. So I've got that on the way, actually. But I don't think we have any of this type of mask right now. I didn't see them in online exclusives. I don't think I saw any in the catalog, and maybe I'm missing something, so I pulled out, this is like really old, it's like from 2020 or 2021, but I like it, and I thought it went nice with the flower theme, so, you know, I used it. But unfortunately, you can't buy it. And I don't like doing that. But I just really wanted something. I'd love to see Stampin' Up! Come out with another die like the one that they had a couple of years ago, where it didn't actually cut anything out, but it was a big, almost card-sized die that embossed and sort of cut parts of leaves out. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was really, really nice. And I miss it. Okay, so I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do or how much I was going to need. So I stamped using the smoky slate, which is why I had that in the other bin. I stamped 2 of the large flower images, and then I stamped, it looks like 5 of the smaller rose images, and then 3 of the leafy images, and then I die cut this. And I die cut all of these out. So I decided I wanted to use the blending brushes, and thank goodness for the small blending brushes. So what I did was I got out the Moody Mauve ink, and well, I won't actually use the ink pad because I don't want to get any more ink on it than I did, but I do want to show you something. So, and I know I've showed this before, but I never know if there's somebody new watching. When you use the blending brushes, and I do love these blending brushes, don't get me wrong, if you forget to kind of tap them off, you get a blob that looks like that in your flower. So most of the time I did remember. I think here I didn't. Here it looks like I didn't, but I did. But what happened is the brush is shaved in like a convex shape, okay? And so even though I tried to just ink up a side of it so that I wouldn't get any of the Moody Mauve ink on where I wanted the greenery and so on, it wasn't perfect. So when I tried to go back and make the outside flowers or outside petals darker, I also made the center darker. So the center kept getting darker and darker, and the outside edges weren't getting as dark as I wanted them. And then, of course, there were little things like the detail on this piece here where you see the little pod part and the stem that I just couldn't get with the blending brushes. So I said, okay, I need a plan B here. So my plan B, and I don't have the markers, but I would not have wanted to mix the blend markers with this because it's a totally different look. They're much more dark and intense. So I got out colored pencils, and of course there was no Moody Mauve colored pencil. We don't have one. So I pulled out a retired Rich Razzleberry and just very, very lightly, like I'm barely pressing, went around some of the spots where I felt like the pink needed to be a little bit darker. I mean, it's okay for a flower to be darker in the center, but I didn't want it to be such a strong comparison. And then I took Granny Apple Green, Garden Green, and Old Olive, and used them kind of in combination with one another to darken up some of the spots and to hit some of the stems that I couldn't hit with the blending brushes. So that was a little time intensive, not gonna lie. That took a little bit of my time. So the idea was to put this on here and then to arrange the flowers on this. So I think I can go ahead and glue this down. I'm not tucking anything behind, it's all going on top. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. And if I glue this down, then that's the way the thought process is going to stay. What I can do, though, is just put glue in the middle, because other parts of these things are going to cover it up, so they're going to hold this down, so I don't have to worry about it coming up. But I could still tuck something in the middle if I wanted to. So that might be a good saving grace, just in case. And I truly don't think I'm going to need all of these. I think it would be kind of a hot mess with all of them. So I thought maybe one of these going across, diagonally across the whole thing. And then I would start working in, like, how many of the small roses did I want? Do I want green on top of green, or green hanging over the edge? I think I might want some green hanging over the edge. And if I do that, I've got to be more towards the corners with this, because you can't have it hanging over the edge of the card, because if you do that, then your card won't fit in the envelope. So now I'm covering up some green, but I'm also adding some green. Maybe. Okay. And whether you're watching now or you watch on the replay, I'm more than open to constructive criticism. So I will want to tuck some of this greenery behind that. So now I'm thinking on a different line. Now I'm thinking, let's get this yucky piece of paper out of there. That's what I'm thinking. Now I'm thinking maybe greenery coming off each corner. I could also cut one of these so that I can use both of them but make it a little bit smaller. Let's just kind of do that now and just see what that might turn into. So I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to make a little V in here so that looks a little bit more natural. Okay, and then we've got this. And then maybe I'll cut off a little bit of that stem, because we're probably not going to need that either. So that I'm starting to almost wonder if I want to use these at all. I'm almost thinking I'm not sure that I want to. I could use one on the inside, that would be nice. What if I just do, the big piece of greenery there, and then a smaller one here, and a bigger one here, or the other way around. You really do have to play, so this is what we call dry fitting. So it means that I'm not gluing it all down yet, because once you glue it down, you're kind of stuck with it, even if you decide you don't like it too much. I have at times put like a tiny dot of glue on a piece of it just to kind of hold it in place while I look at it. I almost think I like that just the way it is, and I don't think I feel a need to put more roses on it. I'm also sort of wishing now that instead of stamping this in the smoky slate, that I had stamped it in, let's say, the basic gray. I don't know that I would have wanted the strong contrast of black, but the basic gray would have let us see more of, especially in the flower, more of the parts that are being obscured, and might have even been blended a little bit by using the ink and the blending brushes. So if I do this, if I were to make this card or something similar again using the blending brushes, I would use a darker ink. But I'm liking this just the way it is. I really am. So, alright. So what I'm going to do is just get these out of my way, and I'm going to sort of take this apart in the same sort of layout that I want it. And I think I'm going to pop this up, but I'm going to be careful about how I pop it up so that I can stick these leaves under it. Because the other thing that I sometimes do is I dry fit it all and then stick pieces of Scotch tape under there to hold it in place, but I'm going to try to not do that today and just see if that works for me. It may or it may not. And I'll try to, did I glue that down? Yes, I did. I'm going to try to not put too many dimensionals near the edges so that I can stick things in. And you can always use your take your pick tool. If it happens, I'll show you how. You can always use your take your pick tool to lift up a little bit. You can use the spatula end to get under the these things, the dimensionals. That's what I'm trying to say. And lift them up a little bit so that you can stick something under them that maybe you weren't planning on sticking under them. All right, so I think I had it this way. I'm not going to press tight yet. Let me just kind of put this back. Yeah, so I'm hitting a dimensional there. Yeah, so the other thing is I don't really need this stem because all I'm doing with it is shoving it underneath. so I can cut that piece of stem off, and then I don't have to worry about hitting anything. Well, maybe I still do because it's not going far enough in. So, since I didn't press on it, I should be able to lift it up with my hands. Yep. And I can get that under there. And at least for now, the dimensional will sort of hold that in place. I just want to make sure that none of it is hanging over the edge. Let's see. Okay. Just going to do that. I'm not going to get any glue under there yet, but I will. And then let's do the same thing. Let's cut this stem off. And get this one here. And I may have to do a little lifting too, but again, I didn't press it too hard. So it should come up, but I'll show you anyway. So with the Take Your Pick tool, you've got multiple ends, and there are some attachments that come with this or that you can order extra that I don't even have yet. So one end is this spatula end, as I call it, and the end that you saw me using to get the backs off the dimensionals was the sharp end. So that's the piercing end. So what I'm going to do is just take it and turn it upside down, you put it in, and it locks in place. So I can use that to lift up a dimensional that I put down that I now want to lift up just temporarily. And now I should be able to get this piece under there. Oh, but that's not the piece I want. This piece under there, and not have any of it sticking off the edge. So it's close, but it's not hanging over, so that works. So there we go. And then this one here, and this one here. I think it's just a touch different from what I did before, but it's fine. So I'm going to show you another little trick. All right, so let's say I told you I have this scrap jar over here full of these little strips. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. This one I usually reserve for when I really have an oops that I can't totally fix. So I could obviously just lift this up, because now we know this is held down underneath by the dimensional a little bit. I could lift this up and get ink or get glue underneath there. But another easy way to do it is to put some glue on a strip of paper and then lift up your piece and dab some glue everywhere where you want it, and then pull it out. Now, if what I was doing was really tight down, like if I realized there was a gap here, what you can do is slip it in and then press down and pull it out. And so the glue stays where you want it by doing that. So that's a good trick for kind of fixing something. There's always ways to fix things, always. All right, so this one, yeah, and that wasn't even the one that I thought it was. I was talking about for the bigger ones. This one is being held down in place by a dimensional. So I'm just going to put a little more glue on my little strip and stick it down under and dab it around a little bit. Start to press it down and then pull it out. That way I know I'm getting glue on this tip here so that nothing's going to get caught on anything. All right, this one does not need that treatment because it was loose anyway. So this one I'm just going to go ahead and put glue on the leaf itself. And then just lift that up gently, there we go. And put that there and press it down. And now this one, well, this one's not really being held in place either, is it? But I may have lost my, yeah, I think my dimensional came back down. All right, so I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on this side of it because the dimensional might have lost some of its sticky. So since I'm sticking this in that place, I still want it to have dimension, so now the dimensional will stick to this extra glue that I put on. Okay, and I don't mind that that's popping up because that's kind of what I wanted to do. And then I can get my little piece of, did I just put my thumb in the glue? But this glue is really dry already. The glue that I put on there a minute ago is already dry. Okay, get a little bit of that and just do that same technique where I dab it here, dab it there. And then right before I'm done, pull it right out and press it down. So that's just a little trick. All right, and I'm feeling almost like I want to stick another dimensional under there. So this is another place where your things come in handy. So I'm taking the backing off of it, and I'm just sticking it the tiniest bit onto the edge of this, because if you stick it on too much, you won't get it off. And I'm going to put that under there and pull it out. And now I like that better, the way that's staying down. So you take your pick tool. Comes in handy for lots of things, and sometimes I just call it your fix your pick tool because it works for fixing things. All right, now I know I picked a sentiment for this one, and I think that's what this was for. And I think I picked congratulations. Yeah, I did. Try it this way, put it down on the table. Sometimes that's a good trick to know too. And then pick it up so that you can really look at it and see if it's straight. And if it's not straight, we'll just cut it. Oh, you know what? I already stamped it. Okay, so after all that, I already stamped it. And I think I'm just going to make this a plain banner across here. So, because these two are so close together, if I put it down here, I am kind of cutting off a lot of hiding a lot of my greenery. If I put it up here, it's still kind of bad. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more trick. So this is something that Erica Serwin does, and when she first did it, I thought it didn't really make any sense. I didn't get why she did it, but it does make sense. She takes a pencil, and she draws a very light line around, I think I did show this once recently, around the letters. Now that one was too close. Around the letters that she wants to sort of fussy cut around and have the lines follow the letters. If she doesn't like the way it looks, she can erase it and start again. But if she starts cutting and doesn't like the way it looks, then she's kind of out of luck because she's already cut it. And so I understand now why she does that. It really does make sense. And then all the way around here, and maybe even a little bit around there. I'm not going to try to cut that little curly Q out. That's just crazy. And then again, you've seen me show how when you cut, you don't keep opening and closing your scissors. You start them out open pretty wide, and then as you close them up, you move the paper. So it's really my left hand that's moving and my left hand that's doing all the work. I got a little too close there, just so you know. And then as you go, if you need to open them up again, then you open them up again. And then you reposition them, and you get a much smoother line that way. Okay, so whenever you do need to open them, you go ahead and you open them, and then you just continue with what you were doing. But having that little line there to guide you kind of makes it a little bit more goof-proof. I'm not saying that you can't goof, because you can always make a mistake. Okay, then I'm going to open it again and take that curve, open it again, and then take this curve, and I did a little up and down there. I think that this pair of scissors needs some sharpening, because I can tell I have not sharpened any of my scissors. I've gotten new ones, and I have a way of marking them so I know which ones are the new ones. There is a place here that does sharpen scissors not too far from here. Well, probably a 40-minute drive, but when you live in kind of a rural area, a 40-minute drive is really not considered a long drive. Okay, so the only thing that I did was that I came a little closer to that C than I wanted to. And just to make that a little bit less obvious as a mistake, I'll go around and trim off just a tiny bit more around that circle there too. So again, it looks like I did it on purpose. That's always the goal, to make all of your mistakes look like you did them on purpose. And then if I wanted to, actually that doesn't bother me. I know it's covering up some of the rows, but I like it being in the center. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Oh, I think I want some mini dimensionals. I like the congratulations because it certainly would make a lovely graduation card, obviously. Well, again, probably for a female, but it could also be a wedding card or an engagement card. And so on the inside, it could say on your wedding, or we have some stamps that say happily ever after or something like that. And you could just write, congratulations on your engagement. So congratulations is a good one because it's kind of generic. Okay, and I'm fighting with that with my fingernail when I don't have to because I can use my Take Your Pick tool. Except I'm having to fight with that too for some reason. Well, no matter what I do, I'm just not getting it today. Okay, there we go. That one just didn't like me. Okay. No, I really do like that right across the center. I still think you can see enough of the roses. I'm going to move it up a little bit. And I like that. Okay, and I think, oh yeah. So this is the more avid one, like you see, because it involves using a stencil, and it involves using the dies, and it involves using the blending brushes, and then it also involved kind of using some colored pencils, watercolor pencils, in a sort of an unexpected way. These are the iridescent basic jewels, and I like them so much that I just ordered 2 packages right off the bat. So now I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool again. So again, this is something maybe for a more advanced crafter because you're using embellishments. They're so pretty. I'm just going to kind of scatter these around. There's only 2 sizes, so I guess you just call it large and small, and there are more of the small. There. I tend to use 3. I try not to get too carried away, and I try not to balance it. Like some people might put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it kind of looks like a clock face, And they say a triangular pattern draws the eye in. I don't know who they are, and I don't know if that's true, but that's what I keep hearing. But I do like that. And I probably could have gotten away with using the larger ones and gotten a bit more of a pop, but I didn't. So there, I just didn't. Oh, and look what I did. I did it again. You saw me do this a couple of weeks ago. My card's upside down. So here's the deal. It's absolutely no big deal. Like, you would not scream or get upset or anything. All you would do is get out your paper trimmer. And cut the back part of the card right off. Just hack it off. Oh, because the embellishments are there, it wasn't letting me get to the bottom there. And then I'm just going to take this whole thing, this whole thing right side up and mount it on a new basic white card base. And I'm good to go. That's all I have to do. So I'm not the least bit worried about that. See, I didn't even break a sweat. All right, so these now I'll have for another project, which is great because I won't have to go through doing all that again. I don't mind. I do enjoy coloring. It just got to be a little much when I realized that the blending brushes weren't reaching to the spots that I wanted them to reach into, and Okay, so we have Avid. We have Casual. And we have Beginner. And I've got to say, I love them all. I truly do. I'm a fan of the blues, so my eye is drawn to this one, and I love the wood plank. Anytime we have a wood grain paper, I tend to buy that. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody's sending me a message. Oh, so I belong to a Stampin' Up group. It's kind of hard to explain, but it used to be my Uplines group, and now it's a group that we're still running it without her, and then we've joined an even larger group, and so we're doing a lot of get-together kinds of things, and we're having we're having 2 coming up, one in September and one in October, and everybody was supposed to look through the new mini catalog, which is only available to demonstrators right now, and pick what set, if they had volunteered to do a demonstration or a display, they are supposed to look through it and pick which one they have decided to do a display on. And I have been so busy today, I haven't even gotten a chance to get online. We can only see the catalog online. And one person just said she had to print it out. And I understand that. It's so hard to look at things online. And that's why it bothers me a little bit that we're going to so many online things. But at least so far, they're swearing that they're never going to eliminate a catalog completely. And I hope that's true, because I don't know. There's just something about flipping through a catalog. Am I right? If they still made the Sears catalog and the JCPenney catalog, I'd be getting one. I'd be getting it even if I didn't buy anything. I love looking through catalogs. I do a fair amount of shopping on Land's End, and I love the fact that they still send me a couple of catalogs a year. Okay, anyway, so I love the blues. That's definitely my favorite. All right, so I hope you liked these cards. Please leave any comments and let me know what you liked or what you didn't like or what you think could have been done differently. I am always open to that. I'd love to hear your opinions. And I will see you 1 week from today. Enjoy this nice weather we've been having. 2 days in a row now they've called for thunder showers, and they haven't happened. So don't believe the weatherman. Get outside and do something fun. All right, see you next week.